Shalom. In this week's Sedra is Sedra Ki Teitzeh. There are few offenses quite as frustrating as slander. When a person faces a false accusation, it's almost impossible for them to defend against it. And even when they can prove that the accusation was false, the slander sits, creating doubt in the courtrooms of the mind. Our rabbis taught the difference between gossip, which is lashon hara, and slander, motzi shemra. Gossip is speaking derogatorily about somebody, irrespective of whether the information is true, while slander is speaking false information about someone. Both gossip and slander are forbidden, but as this week's Torah portion demonstrates, they are very, very different. In this week's Torah portion, we learn the following verses. If a man marries a woman and cohabits with her, but then he begins to hate her, and he fabricates charges against her and defames her, saying that the woman that I married, but when I approached her, I found that she was not a virgin. In such a case, the girl's father and mother shall produce evidence of the girl's virginity before the elders of the town at the gate. The girl's father shall say to the elders, I gave my own daughter as a wife to this man, but he hates her. So he's made up these charges saying that I found that your daughter was promiscuous. But here is the evidence of my daughter's purity, of her virtue. The elders of that town shall then take the husband and give him lashes for his slander. Now the Talmud quotes a debate about the punishment for a man who slanders his wife's virtue. In a debate between Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov and Rabbi Yehuda some 2,000 years ago, the question arises whether the man must pay 100 shekels, not today's shekels, this is worth a lot more, and be lashed or just be lashed. The debate stretches for over a page in the Talmud, and our scholars have expressed various opinions as to who we follow in this debate. Maimonides maintained that the lying husband must be lashed and pay the 100 shekel. Maimonides felt it was necessary to state where the warning about the prohibition is found in the Torah. Our Torah portion only states the punishment, but a principle of Torah law of halacha is that for an action to be considered prohibited, a warning must also be explicitly written in the Torah. Maimonides wrote, when a person issues a slanderous report concerning a Jewish maiden, and the matter is discovered to be false, he should be punished by lashing, as it states in the Torah, and he shall be lashed. The warning for the negative commandment is derived from this verse: do not go about as a slanderer among your people. He must also give the father 100 shalaim of pure silver. If the girl's an orphan, the money is given straight to her. The verse Maimonides quoted as the warning isn't limited to slandering a woman over her virtue, but that's actually the general prohibition of saying gossip, of speaking lashon hara about anyone. Slandering a new bride about being promiscuous is just one manifestation of this prohibition. While Maimonides' view seems to be the consensus, it's interesting to note that the Chizkuni disagreed with him. In his commentary on this verse, Chizkuni wrote, they will administer punitive lashes to him for having transgressed the positive command that you must love your neighbor as you love yourself. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha. The Chizkuni's opinion is fascinating because it teaches an entirely new outlook on the mitzvah that is familiar to the youngest school child. When Jews think of the command to love your neighbor as you love yourself, they generally think of acts of kindness and generosity towards others. But there's an implicit warning in the command as well. Don't harm other people. And slander is one of the worst offenses a person can commit against another, because it's almost impossible to defend against or recover from after it's been perpetrating. Committing this offense is absolutely horrific and something that we must be very, very careful about. Shabbat Shalom.